Good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday to you. We've got Bob Loeffler today. He is the fearless agent. He is the number one sales coach in America. And without further ado, Bob, take it away.
Well, thank you, Deborah. I was thinking about all the stuff I wanted to talk about, but one thing that's important is I don't know how many of you are new in real estate for like less than a year or something like that, but um, I want to kind of tell you what it was like for me when I was new. But welcome to real estate if you're new, and then some folks they'll get in a situation where maybe they get off track and they want to get back on track. So hopefully what we talk about today will help you with some of that too. But so I got into real estate, and again I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona, which is land of the blazing sun. It's a nice town, and I grew up here. I was a high school dropout. I never went to college. I I when I got into real estate, it happened because I was working in a camera store, and there was a lady that was my customer, and she would come in wearing her gold coat, and so she obviously worked for Century 21. But I would go through the newspaper every day, looking at the one ads, looking for used like collectible cameras to buy because we made a lot of money doing that in our store and like estate sales and stuff like that. And I said to her, Sue was her name. I said, Sue, I was looking in the one ads and I saw this ad. It said, we will train you to sell real estate. And she goes, oh my gosh, you would be great in real estate. You've got to go to real estate school. So I said, well, like what would that cost? And I think back then it was like $175 or something like that. And I go, well, yeah, I would do that. She goes, yeah, go to real estate school. So I go to real estate school, and I'm sitting there, and I realized this is bigger. This is good. This is going to be great. And then I interviewed with 40 different offices before I actually chose the office that I chose, which was very close to my house. And it was, and she actually worked there, so she kind of recruited me to that company. But one thing I want to mention, you guys are with the right company. You want to stay with HomeSmart forever. Partly is because they have the best swag of any company. You see that right here? That's the company to be with because they've got great free stuff. But I noticed that failing agents will many times change companies a lot of times, and or maybe some successful agents do that too, but it never helps them. So whenever I'm coaching somebody, I would say wherever you're at, try to bloom where you're planted, stay where you're at. You're certainly with the right company, and HomeSmart is a great company that started in my town, so I saw them from day one. So what I want to talk about today, I get into real estate, and the market is horrible. The mortgage rates were 15% coming down off of 21, and people today can people are complaining about the 6% mortgage rates today. I'm thinking, are you kidding me? That's historically that's very low actually. So I think that's what they were in like 1965 actually. But I get into real estate. I fail miserably for 5 years. I have I'm a biker. My real estate car is a Harley. This is what I look like. That's my afro. So you can see I was poised for success. Um, but I knew I would succeed in real estate because I had a good attitude. How many of you would agree that attitude is everything?
Uh-huh.
Okay, well, it just goes to show you how wrong you could be because I fail miserably, even though I have a great attitude. And I was thinking about this the other day. If when we were sitting in real estate school, I went in person to real estate school, and if the instructor in real estate school would have said to me, one thing you're going to have to learn is a listing presentation. because you're going to be talking to people who want to sell their house. And another thing you're going to have to learn is a pricing presentation, because you are going to have to help them price their house correctly. And then you'd probably want to learn a for sale by owner presentation, because this is what all realtors do. We talk to FISBO sometime. And then you want to learn a buyer presentation so that you can help the buyer in a professional manner, and then an investor presentation, and then learn a way to present offers to clients in a professional way. All of us sitting in real estate school would have said, yeah, of course. That's what we do, right? But that never happens, does it? I get into real estate. Nobody teaches me any of that stuff. And I have a typical failure experience, certainly earning way below my potential. So I always use this as my little visual for that. This is the local, welcome to the local board of realtors. And on the flip side, I color code it. And that red group represents statistically the number of us that will fail out of the business completely. We will not renew our license in 2 years. We'll go back down to the Home Depot and time on the orange apron and explain to our family and friends how this real estate thing didn't work out. And then this yellow group here that's smaller represents me. I did renew my license in 2 years. I think a lot of people wondered why I bothered, because I wasn't making any money. And but I didn't have any other skills. I didn't have a backup plan. And then that little green group represents statistically the number of us that get into real estate. We immediately are successful. We're earning an above average income. And of course, half of them did it by marrying the broker, or they have a, sister-in-law that's a lender, or a brother that's a builder, or some secret hookup that I didn't have. Not that I'm bitter, maybe a little. But what happened to me is, I'm failing miserably for 5 years. And then my broker comes to me one day and he says, hey, there's this sales training course, which I had taken all of them. I had 5 years of taking everything you've ever heard of, and probably some that you have not. And then and I said, yeah, I'll go. What have I got to lose? So I'm sitting in the back row, because I'm a back row guy, and I realized this is different. And it was a Floyd Wickman Sweat Hogs course, is what it was called. So Floyd had a completely opposite way of doing things, and I years later I realized what it really was. So I want you to write down the secret to sales. I hope you're ready to take some notes. But so the secret to sales is you have this elaborate setup that leads to one magic question that has no wrong answer, and you already know the answer. You set them up, you set them up, you set them up. And this is for their benefit. This is not to manipulate people. You're trying to get them to make good choices for their life. And then you ask them the magic question, and they can't get it wrong. So after I'm sitting next to this lady who it has about 6 months in the business, no listings, no hope of succeeding. I have 5 years of failure under my belt. And I said to her, this is different. I go, this, I know this will work. This is actual sales training, and all the famous coaches you're familiar with. I don't know what that stuff is, but it has nothing to do with sales. It's like arguing, or it's constant objection handling and all that crazy stuff. But anyway, so we sign up and take this 90-day course, and 12 weeks later, she has 19 listings. I have listings and sales and listings of mine that sold and closings totaling 50. So it was like overnight success. And we didn't learn a thing about real estate, but we learned everything about sales. So we kept retaking that course over and over again every time it would come to town. And then she and I became business partners, and we ended up being the top producing team for Century 21 in the whole state of Arizona. So the reality is, everybody who's training in the real estate industry is winging it. And I noticed something. We were uh, we were the top producing team for Century 21 in the whole state of Arizona, and we had our own little semi-private office, I guess, in the company. And there was this couple that worked there, and they drove a big Cadillac and a big fancy Mercedes, and they lived in a multi-million-dollar house up on the mountain. And when new agents would come to the office, they would always go to them and ask them for advice, not realizing that that couple didn't make enough money selling real estate to even make the payments on those cars. So we end up copying the wrong people many times in real estate. So you want to be careful who you copy. By the way, I got a quiz question. Would you guys like to do a quiz question?
Sure.
Who, which president was a failed realtor?
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. Nobody could guess. It was Ulysses S. Grant. So if you're failing as a real estate agent, at least you've got that president thing to fall back on if it doesn't work out, you know. So that's so. So let's just talk about who pays us. There are people who are going to pay us, you know, assuming we learn what we're doing. And what I want to talk about today is the skills and the schedule and the systems of a fearless agent. So fearless agents are different because they have a set of skills and a schedule that they stick to, and a set of systems that makes everything easier and makes it so they have no competition. But starting is to know who's going to pay us. So the let's say we're talking about sellers, okay? The seller who's going to pay us is nice, they're sane, they're smart, and they're deadly serious about selling their house right now at fair market value, whatever that turns out to be. And they don't get to choose, nor do I, what fair market value is. The market will tell you what fair market value is. So that person will pay you. And many of us have had an experience where we did business with somebody and we never ended up getting paid. It's because they weren't all of those things. They weren't nice, sane, smart, serious at fair market value, perhaps. Same with the buyer, you know, or an investor. So if you want to make the big bucks in real estate, it's about learning. I look at everything through a lens of presentation. If there's a problem with a person in sales, there's a presentation that will fix that problem. That's just how I look at it. And I had some other businesses that I was in, and again, they were low. Like I was a professional photographer, and it was like little girls' beauty pageants, like John Benet Ramsey, that kind of thing, you know. But you'd have to give a presentation to the parents, you know. You'd have a little visual presentation and a set of words. So the presentation is a set of words that you say. Good idea to have maybe some visuals to go with it to keep you on track. And everything in Fearless Agent is done that way. That way you're doing the best possible job for your client. And it always involves the elaborate setup that leads to one magic question that has no wrong answer. Now, it could be on the phone when you're talking to somebody to try to schedule an appointment, or it could be when you're face to face to try to get them to sign a listing or a purchase contract or a buyer broker agreement. So, for example, I'll just give you a little part of the Fearless Agent listing presentation. You know, you ring the bell. By the way, everybody in real estate, practically everybody, does the listing presentation thing, and if they even have a listing presentation, which is pretty rare, but they do things out of order. But you should ring the bell, smile, pay them a compliment, take them directly to the kitchen table. Never take the tour of the house. Never do that. because it makes it about the house. It isn't about the house. The house doesn't even matter. It's about making the buyer grossly overpay for the house. If I'm the seller and you're my agent, I want you to show me how you're going to make the buyer grossly overpay for my house, my crappy house, and then I'm going to love you, right? So you've got to get their attention. You always want to assume that they've met with other agents, even if you don't think they have. Assume that they have met with other agents, and the other agents are not going to be doing things in the right order. So you ring the bell, you smile, you pay them a compliment, take them directly to the kitchen table, break the ice, and then I want to get their attention. So I would say, first of all, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to meet with you tonight. I really appreciate that. Uh, and I want to let you know that I am not here uh, to take a listing, just for the sake of taking a listing, because anybody could do that. By the way, are you familiar with something called the expired list? Yeah, I printed one up. And what this
Yeah.
is a list of people that have two things in common. One is they chose to do business with an agent that allowed them to fail. In other words, their house didn't sell. They were unable to go through with their plans. And number two is, in my opinion, those agents and those sellers never should have agreed to join forces in the first place. I think you'd probably agree on that. So what I've done is I've created a step-by-step process that if we follow it, it's going to absolutely guarantee that you and I do not end up on a list like this. Can I share that with you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I was walking up the driveway and they were peeking out the vertical blinds and they see me coming, they're doing this. They're going, "Oh, here he comes. Hey, remember what we talked about? We're not going to be signing anything," right? And they've got two things in their head, really. It's how much does he charge and how long is this going to take? That's what they're thinking, right? So I need to get those things out of their head, and that failure, that pain funnel, the here's here's how it could go bad, is really the secret to success. So getting their attention. And I say, so the first thing I'm going to do is just ask you some questions, because more important to me than me and my company is you and your plans, and how I can help you get there, or if I can help you get there. And then I'm going to have you give me the tour of the house and show me any point out anything important, like improvements you've made, or if you think there's a problem that we should talk about. Then we'll come back here to the kitchen table and I'll give you a brief but complete idea of how I do business completely differently than all other agents you will ever meet, in a way that's going to make sure that the buyer overpays for your house and you end up netting, after all expenses are paid, tens of thousands of extra dollars that you could never get any other way. And once you decide that that's what you want, then we'll talk about the second most important decision you're going to make, and that would be the pricing. And I think more important than a price is a pricing strategy that's going to assure you're not leaving any money on the table that you should be taking with you, and then a process of kind of what happens after that. So I think if we do all those things in that order, there's no chance you're going to end up on a list like this. Fair enough. Now, if they've met with any other agent, just by doing those two things correctly, you probably already got the listing. Okay. So then I'm going to ask them a series of questions, and the questions are designed in such a way that the seller is going to be selling me on why they should not use my competitor Then they're going to sell me on why they should list with me and HomeSmart. And when I have the seller selling me on me, I've arrived. So the structure of the questions in the Fearless Agent listing presentation really is the, I call it the magic trick that makes that happen. So a similar magic trick is built into all of the presentations. Um, so that's part of sales. Then you have a close at the end, but you also have to follow a set of principles. So I want you to write these down. So never talk. This is with sellers, by the way. Never talk commission until they're sold on the price. Never ever talk about price until they're sold on listing with you and HomeSmart tonight. And never talk about you or HomeSmart to somebody who's not even sold on using a realtor. So if it's a for sale by owner, they're not sold on using a realtor. So I need the Fearless Agent for sale by owner presentation first. At the end of that, I would say to them, well, now that you know the facts and the reasons, assuming I'm the world's greatest agent, isn't it a pretty good bet that you'd be better off with an agent? I mean, be honest. And they go, oh, yeah, I don't know what we must have banged our head when we were thinking about this for sale by owner idea. We know that's over. We know we need an agent. I go, okay, well, let me show you how I work. Okay. And by the way, are you familiar with something called the expired list? And then I go right into the listing presentation. And then at the end of the listing presentation, there's a close, which is called the nutshell close. So in a nutshell, now at the end of the questions, by the way, so we do the expired list intro, and then we do the little preview of coming attractions to make them feel comfortable with what's going on. Then I ask them the questions, and those are designed. That's the magic trick. And then they're sold on me at the end of the questions. So I know realistically I'm getting the listing at the end of the questions. And they're nothing like the questions other people would ever, any other agent would ever ask them. But it causes them to sell me on why they shouldn't use their friend who's going to give them a discount. They end up selling me on why they should list with me and HomeSmart. And then we go look at the house. So then we come back and we do the remainder of the listing presentation, which is really just an objection crushing, dumb idea crushing, competition crushing machine. And then there's the nutshell close at the end. And I say, so in a nutshell, that's my philosophy of helping you get absolute top dollar for your house, making sure that the buyer grossly overpays for your house. So the theme is buyer grossly overpays for your house. And I do know how to make that happen because I am a fearless agent. So I say, so would you say that's definitely what you're looking for? And they always say yes. And I need a yes because then I'm saying, well, so if we can agree on the pricing, is it fair to say we're going to get the ball rolling tonight? And they go, oh, yeah, Bob, you're the guy. You're our agent. No doubt about that. I go, okay. So only then would I ever talk about price. So sometimes I'll say, so if we can agree on a price, is it fair to say we're going to get the ball rolling tonight? And they say, well, the best price is important to us. Well, I just asked them a yes or no question. That's not a yes or a no. So message discipline is one of the keys to fearless agent. If I ask them a yes or no question, I'm going to get a yes or a no answer. I don't really care what the answer is, but it's going to be a yes or a no. It's not going to be a yeah, but blah, blah, blah. It's not going to be, yes, the money is important to us. And I would say, so is that a yes? And they go, Yeah. I go, you sure? Yeah. Okay. So if we can agree on the price, we're doing business tonight. Yeah. Okay. Then I'm going to talk price, but under no other circumstances will I do that. So if I'm not going to talk price, what am I going to do? Well, you only get paid in real estate for two things. You get paid for booking appointments and getting signatures. Nothing else we do. All that stuff that might be necessary, uh, but you don't get paid for it. It's charity work. So if I book an appointment and I can't get the signature, then it's time to book an appointment. So while I'm still there, I'm going to book the appointment to come back, um, if that's the appropriate thing. So at the end of the pricing presentation, there's a close. Um, so I designed the Fearless Agent pricing presentation uh, because I wanted I said to my partner, I said, I would like every seller to say these words to me at the end of the pricing presentation. I want them to say, why wouldn't we just underprice our house right off the bat? And, or they would say, well, we trust you, Bob. Whatever you think we should price it at, that's what we're going to do. Either of those two things would be fine. Now, mere mortal real estate agents never hear those things. So all the presentations are this elaborate setup that leads to one magic question that has no wrong answer. So at the end of the Fearless Agent pricing presentation, I say, so I'll leave it entirely up to you. How long do you actually want it to take for you to get your money? So when I say I'll leave it entirely up to you, they're thinking they're going to be picking the price. Oh no. Oh no. I'm going to be picking the price. They're picking how long they want it to take for them to get their money. And in a market like we're in now, the longer they wait, the less money they would get, honestly. So then they do that. Then we go into the listing paperwork. Uh, so if you're earning less selling real estate than you wish you were, and you're open to the idea of having some help with that, you either have a skill problem or a schedule problem or a systems problem, or two of the three or all three. So it's uh, not uncommon that people have all three. I did. So the skills that I would think this would be the basics, but if you in your whole is that Chicago the third biggest town in America now or something like that? Probably
Or the second city.
second city, but I think it's the third in population. But the
Population wise, I think you're right. Yeah.
but like Phoenix is the same size as Dallas. I think we're the fifth largest market in the nation. And in my whole town, I was the only agent that had a listing presentation, a pricing presentation, for sale by owner presentation, buyer presentation, and an investor presentation. If you take active agents, how many of them have a listing presentation that they do where they're doing the same thing every time? And they're not talking price at all. Pricing isn't part of a listing presentation. I mean, it's a tiny percentage, maybe 5%. So if you just have those skills, so a listing presentation, pricing presentation, for sale by owner presentation, buyer, investor, and then how to present offers the Fearless Agent way, you have a huge advantage over your competitors. So the other, let's say I'm great at all the skills. I'm able to walk up to, if you think about your if you walk up to a stranger, I want you to be able to walk up to a stranger listing appointment, meaning not a friend or a relative or a referral or something like that. Get the listing that no one else would be able to get. I want you always to be able to charge full commission, and I'm talking about a number greater than 6%, and you keep 4, and always be able to get a 1-year listing, not because you need it, but because they trust you and you can. Um, and every one of your sellers would beg you to underprice their house right off the bat. Every one of your listings would sell in such a way that the seller would net tens of thousands of extra dollars that they could never get any other way or with any other agent. They know that. And because of that, they love you and they send you a steady stream of referrals. Okay. I would want every buyer to be loyal to you, to always eagerly sign the buyer broker agreement before you ever show a single house or search the MLS. They'd always use the lender you recommend so that they don't have problems. And you just learn the Fearless Agent buyer presentation that makes that happen. And then investors have an investor presentation and I'm talking about I'm not talking about fix and flippers. That's crazy. I want real investors who are rich people, lots of money, that are going to buy and hold rental properties and perhaps buy multiple of them. So imagine you have all that and you're able to present offers in such a way that they're able to make the right decisions, good decisions that help them. Then the way to increase your income, and you have the right words to say on the phone to get yourself into enough of those situations as is necessary realistically to make any amount of money you want. So at that point, it's about having the right schedule. So, when I was, I had a bunch of dead end jobs before real estate. So one of them was running a barbecue restaurant. And, we would open at the same time every day. You'd prepare all the stuff. And it was a very successful, very busy, people were lined out the door every day for lunch. Great Texas style barbecue. And only 3 people were on duty in the restaurant at any given time. And we'd have 30 people in line out the door. So you had to be on the ball. But we opened every day at the same time. We closed every day at the same time. The lunch rush came every day at the same time. The meat delivery guy came at the same time every day. We had to, build a fire and, load the pit full of meat at the same time every day. Well, realtors don't do that. Realtors are winging it. They're doing everything, like, what am I doing today? And they have so I want your life will be calmer and saner and way more profitable if every day has these numbers in it. So write these numbers down. So 9 a.m. Now, if you're part-time or you have some weird kid thing going on with school or, that, I get that. But if you can, on weekdays, 9 a.m., noon, 2:30, 5 p.m., and 7 p.m. Those are the 5 times of day that matter to a fearless agent. So when I had that lady as my partner, I think she was saner than I was, but I would, or I asked her to be my partner. So I would be prospecting. I was a telephone prospecting. I was addicted to it, and I'd be calling, my sphere of influence, asking for referrals, and then if there were any to call, And then I'd go to any new for sale by owners and I'd be calling them. And then I'd be going to the new canceled and expired listings if there were any. And then I do follow up calls from previous cold calling that I'd done. Then I would just cold call the rest of the day. And what would happen is I would maybe it would be 10 a.m. and I would book my first listing appointment, and then it's 11:45 and I book another one. Now it's like gambling, it's like the slot machine. You're like I'm jazzed up, and then I just keep calling, and pretty soon it's 1:30 p.m. and I haven't even eaten lunch yet. Now I'm hungry and cranky. So my partner, Corlene is her name, she says, look, if we're going to be partners, one thing we're going to do is eat lunch at noon like people. Like, what are you, nuts? And I go, oh, what a concept. So I look back on that, and it changed my life, because you eat lunch at noon every day, and then your whole day has to wrap around that. And then I'm going to eat dinner. So you have to eat, you have to sleep, and you have to make money. You have to prospect, and then you have to go on appointments. So from 9 a.m. to noon is sacred. Nothing can get in the way of it except these amazing Zoom calls with Bob. That's different. But nothing could get in the way of that, because that's prospecting time. Noon, I'm going to lunch. Now, when I go to lunch, whoever I have lunch with, we're not allowed to bring our phones into the lunch. And then we're going to sit there and talk to each other like human beings and look around at all the losers who are typing at each other. It's crazy. So I need a little break from the electronics and that stuff. So then lunch is over. Then I'm going to get back on the phone if I don't have an appointment. But if I book all my appointments at 2:30 in the afternoon, listing appointment, buyer appointment, investor appointment, they could be in my office or at somebody's house, then I can do 2 listings in a day. Because if I schedule a listing appointment at 4 in the afternoon, I can't do one at 2:30 and I can't do one at 7. The morning is sacred. I can't touch that. So I can only make 1 paycheck a day. So it doubles your income for the year. It's a big deal. So if I making my calls, go to lunch at noon. The other thing is, I know I have an appointment at 2:30 or I don't. I know I have an appointment at 7 in the evening or I don't. It's one or the other. I don't have one at 6:25. It's at 7 or I don't. It's at 2:30 or I don't. So that's calming. Every day is the same. It makes a big difference. So try to do that to the extent that you can. That would, and then I've eaten and I'm not hungry and cranky and all that. All that is a big deal. So another thing is where to look for business. Okay. So what town do you live in, Deborah?
Elmwood Park,
Elmwood Park. And your house was built in what year?
1925.
Okay. So nothing in Arizona was built in 1925 because nothing got built until we invented air conditioning. And that changed everything. I'm so
Right.
old. I'm older than 2 states. That's how old I am. But I'm also was so old that when I was a kid, they didn't even have air conditioning in like department stores, so it was crazy.
Right.
So I grew up in a neighborhood that was and lived in a neighborhood that was built in 1958.
Mm-hmm.
So back in those days, people would pick a farm area, So I picked my farm area the same way everybody picks their farm area. You pick the area you live in, because you feel comfortable.
Right.
So, which is not a good idea necessarily. It worked out okay for me, but I would have agents in my office, and they'd say, "Gee, Bob, I can never, me personally, I always charge 7%, never taken a listing in my whole real estate career." When everybody else, we invented commission discounting in my town, Scottsdale, also. But so these agents would come up to me, they say, I can never get my sellers to pay full commission. And they were talking six, And I'd say, really? I say, I never have that problem. Now I have problems, but I don't have that problem. Or they'd say, I can never get um, uh, I can never get my sellers to price it right. And I'd
Mm.
say, I never have that problem. I have problems, but I don't have that problem. And it occurred to me later, after I got out of real estate, actually, and started doing this, is that it was an accident. I lived in a neighborhood that was 30 years old. So all the houses were free and clear. So the
Right.
people that are thin on the equity, there was so many fewer of them. And so I'm gonna come out with a new cologne, Deborah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called Equity.
All
It
right.
smells like mothballs and Bengay. Do you know how old people smell?
Yeah.
Old people have equity. So if you're driving through a neighborhood and you go, "Oh, that smells like mothballs and Bengay," that's where the equity is. Okay. So where I live now, which was built in 1980, was new in 1984 when I got into real estate. And it's a much nicer, it's much nicer. But so the agents in my office lived where I live now, and the prices had been going down. There was a 10-year drop in prices in back then, and so the people bought up here, and now their houses are here. They don't have any equity, and that's why they kept saying those things. So when you're targeting not people but areas, avoid new areas, avoid out in the sticks. So the farther you get from, you don't have an ocean, but the farther you get in towns that have an ocean, or downtown Chicago. So
Right.
every town has the hood side of town. God knows Chicago has it.
Yeah.
Think Cicero, right?
Yeah.
Street. Uh, and every town has the good side of town. So on the good side of town, houses that were built, I'm trying to think of these days what too new would be. 2000, the whole neighborhood has to have doubled in value. Let's use that as a rule of
All
thumb. So if
right.
you're targeting an area in which to prospect, pick an area that's old enough to have doubled in value, so there will be more equity there.
We could probably use the suburb Arlington Heights,
Oh, for sure.
which
Oh,
is
yeah.
where our headquarters is located here
Yeah,
for our franchise.
that's a lovely place.
Yeah. Has to have doubled in,
So equity is what you get paid out of, is the way to think of that. So
right.
I'm just going to open it up for questions on anything that we've talked about so far. Does anybody have any questions about anything while I drink coffee? The
You
elixir.
can unmute yourselves as well, so we could make this interactive.
On your schedule, you didn't really say what 5 and 7 p.m. were.
Five
And
is
what
dinner.
to do if you don't have an appointment.
5 is dinner. So I'm prospecting from 9 a.m. to noon, and during that time, I'm always going to start with my sphere. So just write that down, sphere, and most people that would be maybe one call or two a day or zero, depending on how big your sphere is. I think it's, if I'm asking for referrals, I don't want to call them like every 6 months or 4 months. Every 3 months would be too often. I don't want to bug them. I don't want to be annoying. I'm annoying naturally. I don't need to double down on it. So then I would go to any new for sale by owners, meaning I've never called them, never dialed their number, never left the fearless agent message before. Uh, then I'd go to any new expireds or canceleds. And then I'd go to follow-up calls from previous cold calling, which is really where the big bucks gets made. And then after that, then I would just cold call for the rest of the day. So every day I cold called from 9 a.m. I actually did it till 9 p.m. every weekday. I didn't work weekends. So I called from 9 a.m. I tell my coaching students till 8 p.m. and then eat lunch at noon, eat dinner at 5, and do all appointments at 2:30 or 7. So people with 9 to 5 jobs have to meet with you at 7. Mm-hmm. And it makes the appointment setting easier. So an awkward pause always leads to, Bob, I think we just want to wait a couple of months. That is not what I want to hear. So people put off things that are unpleasant. Moving is unpleasant. Talking about moving is unpleasant. So I know that's built into it. So if I say, what time, think about when you schedule an appointment with your doctor. You're sick, so you're motivated, you're going whenever they tell you to go. They say, I've got an opening at this, or would that be better? The first available opening I have is this, and you go, I'll take it, right? But with realtors, after they've answered the magic question correctly, I say, I like to meet with people in the afternoons or the evenings. Do you folks have 9 to 5 jobs? They say yes. And I say, I've got 7 p.m. on Thursday, or would the following Monday be better? So always give them 2 choices. Now, if I were to say to them, when would you guys like to meet? Which is what normal realtors do. They go, it's too hard. You're making it too hard on them. You always give them 2 choices. It's either this or that. Never have the third option. So if I say, do you folks have 9 to 5 jobs? And they go, no, we're retired. Then I know I could do them at 2:30. But the 7 p.m. slot is the best because no one has to go pick up the kid from soccer at 8 p.m. They're not, one of them isn't going to leave you in the middle of it. So try to load the old people that are my age and older go to bed at 4 p.m. I don't know what that's all about, but so
can you also talk more about systems?
Yeah, so systems would be like having an assistant. So that would be a system. I coach different types of people. So I coach teams, big teams, small teams, individual agents with an executive assistant, 50-50 partners like husband-wife partnership, or the mother-daughter, 2 brothers, something like that. And assuming those business models are all equally hardworking, which do you think is the least profitable? What would you guess?
No clue.
It's the team. And the bigger the team gets, the less money they make. I don't know why that is, but it is. the most profitable is the husband-wife 50-50 partnership
Uh,
or the individual agent with an executive assistant. That's the most profitable.
which is what most of us are on this call.
And
We're
once
all
you add the
individual
third
agents.
person, the wheels are off and you're in the ditch. I don't know what that's all about.
Right.
But
We do have a
I've had
transaction.
multiple assistants. That's different. But
We do have a transaction coordinator that we can use,
well,
but we have
I
to pay that person.
an assistant kind of does that.
Yeah,
They can
yeah,
do they just have to do everything. So here's you can just write down the business. The secret to profitability as an agent is the division of labor. Once you bring the partner, like I had a 50-50 partner, then we had an assistant, then we had multiple assistants. But so my job was I was 100% responsible for and accountable for all of the prospecting. So just write that down.
say it again.
Prospecting. So I'm giving you my job description.
Right,
Okay. And then we'll do my partner or the assistant later. So
okay,
I was responsible for all the prospecting. Now, that doesn't mean she never did it. It just means I was responsible for it. Then, by the way, opposites attract in marriage. You're right. Like, I'm a sales guy. I hate paperwork at a level that can no longer be measured with current technology. I hate paperwork. Okay. I hate
right,
computer diddling around on the computer. That's not my thing. I like the phone. Okay. I like sales. So, what am I going to delegate? The stuff I hate, right? So,
right,
prospecting was my thing, presenting. So, I did most of the listing presentations, almost 100% of pricing presentations. Like, certainly, if there was a price reduction or something, that's a presentation. Almost all of the for sale by owner presentations, some of the buyer presentations, and 100% of the investor presentations. And then also business planning. So that was my job description. Now, her job description, my assistant or my partner, it's easy. It's every other thing.
right,
So if it isn't those things, I'm not doing it. So she would not allow me to have an opinion. She'd be talking to the assistant, and I'd say, "Well, I think maybe," and she'd go, "Why don't you shut up and prospect?" Oh, that's right, that's my job. I don't get to have opinions.
right,
I'll stay in my lane. So
right,
that's the most profitable way to do it. So another rule of thumb is husband wife. I coach husband wife 50-50 partnerships. And a breakthrough that many of them have is they would go on the listing appointment together. I go, "What are you, on a date?
yeah,
It's ridiculous. You're cutting your income in half. That's
right,
crazy." So like my partner and I, we never went on a listing appointment. She had a guy that was super creepy. I did go on one with her just to be, the make sure nothing weird happened. But
right,
if you're going on a listing appointment with the Unabomber, take your husband with you. That's different.
right, right.
But so just stuff like that. It's a one person
Yeah,
job.
right,
But making sure that your day is the same every day. The job description is the same every day. The people are doing what they're good at. And it isn't about what you like so much as what, like in a husband wife situation, my wife is an accountant. So you don't have to wonder how dull she is. right? She is not going to give presentations. She's,
Right.
that's not going to happen. So you want to find a partner or an assistant that's opposite of you. You want them to love paperwork. Somebody has to love prospect. Oh, so here's the what's the average sales price in your company? Let's do it that way. Do you know of the houses that sell?
I don't know offhand.
Business planning
Um,
here.
I could say in my
Well, you see
neighborhood,
a
it's,
calculator. Have you ever seen one of these old-fashioned things?
oh yeah, yeah, I recognize it. Now I'm as old as you
So I'm
are.
going to describe a house. You tell me what it would sell for in near where a 1960s neighborhood on the good side of town, not the hood.
Yeah,
Uh, a 1,500 square foot, 3 bedroom, 2 bath on a normal 70 by 100 square foot lot in very average condition. What would that sell for?
between 350 and 400.
Okay, so just write down 375
Okay,
because that is between 350 and 400.
it
See, I
is.
do math in
Yeah,
my head.
yeah.
I'm going to take 375,000.
All right.
Everybody do this with me. I'm using the calculator because I'm too stupid to do math. I take 4%, which is what I get. That's $15,000 GCC. Half of that goes to expenses and write-offs and all that kind of stuff. So that leaves me with 7,500. If I do 40 of those in a year, I did that wrong. 7,500. That's $300,000 net taxable income, like it's a salary job with a company car, because you do get to write off your car.
Right.
So if you were a brand new agent and I was coaching you, that's the goal I would give you. So I gave a guy that goal one time, and he said he had signed up for my coaching in the middle of the night, so I didn't get to have a little pre-call with him, which I prefer. But it turns out he was a perfect fit for it. But he was flat broke. He had taken his last $1,500 in his checking account and signed up for or he said he had $1,500 left in his checking account, I think, after signing up with me or something for coaching.
Yeah.
So I I gave him, he said he wanted to focus on sellers. So I gave him the same goal that I would give any brand new agent. He only had his license for 3 weeks. So I said, I want you to do 40 listings. You charge 7%, you keep 4%. And he said what everybody says. He goes, oh, nobody in my market ever charges 7%. I said, yeah, I know that, but you're a fearless agent now. You'll be able to. And then he said, I don't think I can do 40, which is refreshing humility. He wasn't all full of himself or whatever. I
Right.
said, well, I'm going to give you a formula. And if you just follow this formula, I'm going to write down formula so I don't forget to give it to you.
Okay.
But if you just follow this formula, we'll see how you do. And he ended up doing 120 listings at 7% in his first 12 months in real estate.
Wow.
So there are no other coaching programs that get that kind of results. And it really is because we just teach you to do the opposite of what everybody else does. I think he ended up being the top earning agent in his whole town. He was in kind of a smaller market outside of Oklahoma City. But so all the money. So let's say for $300,000. Okay, I'm going to give you some activities. I want you to write them down. All the money that you're not making now is going to come from one of these 6 sources. So one would be calling your sphere, asking for referrals proactively. We give you the magic words that makes that a very comfortable call to make. It's also comfortable for them to say either yes or no to you, so you don't sound annoying. Then there's cold calling up and down the street through neighborhoods, asking people if they want to sell their house. There's door knocking if the weather is permitting, and I happen to know it's not. So do not door knock today or you will die, right? It'll be like
Yes.
the Donner Party. Then there's calling for sale by owners. There's calling expireds and canceled. There's holding open houses. And there's not one other thing that will ever make you any real money. And honestly, anybody who tells you differently is either crazy or they're a con man trying to sell you something, probably. So the big bucks are going to get made from those things. So look at those things and ask yourself this: are there any of those things that you would not be willing to do for $300,000 a year net taxable income, like it's a salary with a company car, if you're fantastic at it? So that's the question I would have you ask yourself. So it is not uncommon that people will say to me, I don't feel comfortable door knocking. I'd say, okay, cross that one off the list.
Right.
Most people say for 300 grand, I'd do anything, any of those things, if I was fantastic at it.
Right.
So that would make my coaching a good fit for them. But the other thing that I look for is you have to learn at your own pace. I don't care how quick a learner anybody is, 5 presentations. So it's listing, pricing, FSBO, buyer, investor, and then ultimately we teach you how to present offers in a different way. So, but the thing about those is you cannot mix it with, these are magic tricks that only work one way. You can't mix them with any other thing you've ever learned from anybody else. Can't add to it, can't subtract from it. They only work that one way. So you got to be pure fearless agent on those. And then be pure to the fearless agent dialogues on the phone. The main thing is get any tiny trace of any poisonous Mike Ferry, Tom Ferry, Brian Buffini, any of these people you see on YouTube, all of that has to go. It doesn't, that's the opposite of it. So just be good on the phone. And then the formula, let's not forget the formula.
Right.
So if you schedule 5 listing appointments a week, which is, this is assuming you want to focus on sellers. If you only want to do buyers, by the way, I'm a fan of people who only do buyers and a fan of people only doing sellers. I coach people who do both, but I'm not a big a fan of that. If trying to do both, it's hard. And I remember there was a day, I cannot remember what happened. I wish I did because it's a funny story probably, but I had a bad experience with a buyer. Let's have a show of hands. Who's had a bad experience with a buyer?
Yeah.
Oh, it's kind of unanimous. Okay.
Okay.
So I don't know what happened, but I said, if I never put one of these blankety blank nitwits in my car again, it'll be too soon, that kind of thing. And I decided I was going to pick a day, kind of like a New Year's resolution, and never show another house again. So it didn't mean I wouldn't work with buyers, but I never showed a house again. Oh, that's the division of labor thing I wanted to mention too. So, so I got rid of my lockbox key and bought a Corvette, so they wouldn't even fit in it. I could barely fit me in it. I'm too tall for a Corvette. So it was the best day of my life. And that's not, and I'm not imposing my taste on you guys or anybody else, but I think doing just sellers and investors, that was great. So I could not show my own listings. I never left the office unless I was going to an appointment. So the formula: you schedule 5 listing appointments. If you're going to focus on sellers, you schedule 5 listing appointments a week. I don't think any of us would be shocked if two of them were to cancel or stand us up,
All
right?
right.
Then we would meet with three. And if you only listed one of the three, I'd be very happy for you, very proud of you, and you would earn $300,000 net taxable income. So, uh, so that's the formula. And then you call in the correct order and try to avoid um, time wasting things that realtors always do. If you look at like going to the free sub sandwich builder lunch or the title company party that's in the middle of prospecting time or something like, I try to
Right.
avoid all that, the classes and all that stuff. But so I would be prospecting and people would I had a sign on my door. It said, "Stop, fool! Do not open under penalty of dismemberment. I'm prospecting." So sometimes my door would be open, and they go, "Bob, what are you doing?" I go, "I'm prospecting." They go, "I'm cold calling," and they go, "I'd rather starve than do that," and they did.
And
Yeah.
they did. Right.
So,
Right.
uh,
You describe like your calling process, like
is that Kristen?
it is.
Kristen, the process for it?
Yeah, like who you cold call, like how you get their
Well,
numbers and all that. Because
Well, I had a source where you buy the numbers, but
right,
in the old days, they had this thing called the Coles directory or whatever, or coleinformationsystems.com, I think is one source. Mojo, uh, Vulcan 7, those kind of things. But um, really, it's about the words you say. So I see people on YouTube saying the crazy things, but I noticed, I would say, "Hi, my name is Bob Loeffler. I'm a real estate agent with a company called HomeSmart, and I was just calling to see if you might be thinking of selling your house." So Jay Leno on the Tonight Show one time, he said that when a comedian who's going to be on the show for the first time, like it's a big deal to be on the Tonight Show as a comedian the first time. So he would be in the green room and he'd always give him the same advice. He'd say, when you go out there, if you ever think you're talking too slow, slow down. There's no way you could talk too slow. You get nervous maybe and you would talk too fast, but you're setting the context for the call. So you want to go slow. I mean, they don't know why you're calling. You're catching them on the middle of something. You never know what's going on. But imagine it's a real seller with a real need, and you don't want to blow it by talking too fast. So if they say, "Who is this? What is this about?" and they speak English, if they don't speak English, that's different. But then you've blown it. So I want to say, "Hi, my name is," if I know their name, I'd say, "Hi, is this John? Hey, John, this is Bob Loeffler. I'm a real estate agent with a company called HomeSmart. And I was just calling to see if you might be thinking of selling your house." That's the pace of it. And they say no, 90% of the time, of course. And what I used to do is say, "Okay, well, thank you very much for your time," and I'd go on to the next call. And one day I said, "I was just calling to see if you might be thinking of selling your house." And the guy said, "No." And I said, "Well, do you have any plans of moving ever?" And he goes, "Oh, yeah, but not for like 6 months." And I go, "Holy cow, 6 months? It's an emergency, right?" So I realize I'm missing out on people. So if they say no, then I always said, "Do you have any plans of moving ever?" And just see what they say. Because every once in a while they say, "Oh, yeah, but not for like 8 months," or even a year is not that far. So,
Right.
so that's the key. Then, what if they say yes? So if somebody says yes, there's a famous book. If you cannot sleep, this book will fix it. Most boring book ever written, best book on sales ever written. And it's called Spin Selling. Has nothing to do with real estate. It's for corporate sales. But it was based on the way it happened is there was a Fortune 500 company, and they hired this research firm called Huthwaite, and they had them follow around their salespeople all over the country for a year, analyzing their sales presentations. So the idea behind it, which I think was a great idea, was that we'll figure out what the bad salespeople are doing bad, what the good salespeople are, what the great people are doing great, and then we'll teach the bad ones to do what the great ones are doing. So that's a great idea. So the Huthwaite firm comes back with their findings after a year, and they said, here's our findings to the Fortune 500 company. And the Fortune 500 company says, oh, we know that's not true. So they fired Huthwaite. So Huthwaite, they don't know anything about sales. They said, well, we built the infrastructure. Let's try it with another company and another company and another company. And over an 11-year period, they analyzed 35,000 sales presentations, and the results never changed. So it was scientific. They did figure it out. So they had all different types of companies with different products and services, all of them very expensive, like ours. Listing your house with me for 7% of, $400,000 is not the cheap thing. So just tear off a new piece of paper and write four boxes next to each other, left to right, like this. Okay. Just write 4 boxes. So the book SPIN stands for something, and I can never remember what it stands for. But the preliminaries, prelim goes in that first box. They said every sales meeting should have these things happening in it. So we'll call that rapport building. Okay. Rapport. Prelim, box 1 is rapport. Second one, they call it qualifying. I would call that questions. The third one, they call product demo. We'll call that listing presentation. Or buyer presentation or investor presentation. And then finally, the last one was closing. And I would put OH, objection handling, in that one. So these 4 things happen in every sales presentation. So if I had every sales manager from every business in America in one stadium, and I said, look, you're spending all your time, all your effort, all your money training your people to be great at these 4 things. If you had to spend all your time and money and effort in just getting them to be good at one only of those things, they would all agree it's closing, right? Mm-hmm. Always be closing.
Right.
But the research figured out that the great salespeople were great at one of the other ones. And most people would pick rapport. Mm-hmm. They scientifically prove that the more rapport building you do, the less likely you are to make the sale. Get right down to business. And it was asking questions. They were asking better questions And that is the magic trick that's built into the fearless agent presentations is you're getting by asking questions in a certain way, it causes the seller to sell me on why they should list with me and HomeSmart and not do business with my competitors. So for the last 100 years, remember Ulysses S. Grant was a failed realtor. So that was 200 years. But for the last 100 years, sales has always been taught the same way. It is you do a bunch of rapport building, you show the features, but you actually sell the benefits, and then you overcome the objections. And I don't care how you dress it up and name it something else. All other coaching programs in real estate, out of real estate, they all follow that thing. And that's a disaster that causes this. That's why that happens.
So, Bob, how would you handle overcoming the one objection that we're all dealing with, which is, well, I'm already at 3%, or I'm already at 2.75%. Why do I want to sell? I would end up giving up that 3% rate.
The mortgage, you mean? Their mortgages.
Yeah, their loan. They don't want, they're
Well,
like,
anybody who's
I'm not going anywhere with that, and then they want to rent instead of selling.
Yeah, I kind of think that's not like I don't want to sell my house under any circumstances. Is that an objection? No, it's just a fact. I don't want to sell my house under any circumstances. I'm not
Well,
moving.
when it's at 3%, yeah, it's like,
Well,
wow.
I think that's an excuse they use to say, I don't want to sell my house. I don't want to move. Yeah,
Okay.
I would, if I won the lottery, and I've never lost the lottery. So I've never bought a lottery ticket. So I don't think I'm going to win it. Then, yeah, would I move? Maybe. I'm kind of lazy. Maybe not. I'd probably invest the money and buy rental properties or something. I'd probably stay here. In my very dirty, you'd be embarrassed if you saw how I lived. But I'm happy here. So our job is not to sell people on moving, it's to sell people who are moving on using me, using you. That's the secret. So I'm looking for the person who is selling. They are moving. That's already settled. And the only question is who's the agent that's going to get paid going to be. That's it.
And how do you get in front of those people? Like, do you think that marketing is like how you do it? Or do you think it's cold calling? What do you think like the number one thing is to get in front of people that are actually serious about moving?
That guy that I told you that did 120 listings in his first 12 months?
Yeah.
He never sent an email. He never sent a postcard. He never was on Facebook. He never did any marketing of any kind. He only never sent a thank you note.
Wow.
Just used the phone. So marketing is, I would say 99% of marketing is a complete scam, which many of you could tell me the stories how you blew tons of money on marketing. And I, as an agent, I did marketing, and then I sold my business to another agent. So I analyzed what worked, and none of it worked. So I was just flushing money down the toilet. But I would say once you get great at the telephone, you probably are not going to want to blow the money you earned on marketing, probably.
Right.
So my question to you regarding that is, you're always going to be chasing the business then, because if you're not connecting with those people, you could assume they're going to give you referrals, but statistics show that they don't remember the agent if the agent doesn't keep in contact.
I'm calling them for referrals.
Oh,
they're not going to.
So they're part of the sphere.
No, you're right about that. If I 3 years or 4 years after somebody has sold their house, they can't remember who their listing agent was. You're right about that.
Mhm.
But they're not. I'm not going to let them to forget about me because I'm calling them for sure,
Okay, so the 120,
asking them for referrals.
the guy who sold the 120 houses or whatever, was that recent or how long ago was that?
Mhm. Yeah, not that long ago. It
Like the
wouldn't
last?
matter. It wouldn't matter. Nobody else in his town did it
No,
then.
I know, but my
Yeah.
thought was, you said no social media, so I'm assuming it's
Oh
now.
no, he was. Oh no, he was a young guy. He was
Oh,
a social media nut, of course, but he didn't do it in real estate. He didn't have
oh,
time.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how
So
do you call and ask people for referrals? What's the best way to do it? Because I've always been told you should have a reason that you're calling, and it shouldn't be to like basically beg for business because that's kind of what you're doing.
right.
But you
No,
don't want
I remember Floyd, my trainer. He said you gotta. I don't know what it is about me. I would rather call total strangers than friends. I'm more comfortable asking total strangers for business than my friends, family, relatives, or
I agree. Me too.
yeah, and not and other people are the exact opposite. They don't want to call strangers, but to make the kind of money I wanted to make, you had to do both. So, uh, but I there was a guy that went to my church, Roger, and I had uh, called him Roger Dam was his name, and the whole Dam family, by the way. But I was in the church youth group with his kids, so I knew him. I was at their house all the time, and then I'm a real estate agent, and I'm cold calling him, asking for business, and he bought and sold two houses and did not use me. So I then Floyd says, "Here's the secret to working with referrals." So I called him up. He was the first guy I called asking for referrals ever using the fearless agent word. So I said, "Hey Roger, it's Bob Loeffler. How you doing?" He goes, "Hey Bob, how you doing?" I said, "Listen, I'm calling because I got a favor to ask you. Do you mind?" He goes, "No, I don't mind." I said, "I'm expanding my real estate business and I could use your help. And I was wondering if you happen to run into somebody with a real estate need, maybe somebody thinking about buying a house or selling a house or investing in real estate in order to get rich, would you even feel comfortable referring them to me?" And he goes, "I absolutely would." I said, "Well, I just want you to know that when you refer to somebody to me, I'm absolutely going to treat them like gold. I'll treat them like family. I'll never put any pressure on anybody." He goes, "Bob, let me stop you right there." He goes, "I bought and sold a house and had a bad experience, and I wish I would have used you." He goes, "I know I would have had a good experience with you." And I was thinking, well, it was two, but who's counting, right? But anyway, so he said, "Yes, I absolutely would feel comfortable referring somebody to you." So I said, "Well, who do you know that might be thinking of buying a house, selling a house, or investing to get rich in real estate?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, I can't really think of anybody." And I said, how about maybe somebody in your neighborhood?" He goes, "Nah, I can't really think of anybody." I said, "Well, how about where you work?" He goes, "No, I can't think of anybody." I said, "How about anybody like at church or something like that?" He goes, "No, I can't think of that." I go, "Okay, well, again, thank you very much for your willingness to help me expand my business, and if I can ever help you in any way, feel free to give me a call." So I think it was like a month or two later, he called me up and he said, "Hey Bob," uh, he goes, "I got this guy I work with in Rhode Island." He worked for Motorola, so he was all over the country, I guess. And he goes, "I got this coworker of mine I think he was in Rhode Island, and he's got this piece of land that's out just a little bit north of us. And uh, so I said, "Oh, great. Okay, I'll give him a call and I'll report back to you on how it goes." He goes, "I already know how it's going to go. I already sold him on you. He's listing his land with you. There's no doubt about that. So you can you can relax." I go, "Oh, okay, thanks." So I I list his land, and it sells. 10% commission. Big commission check. And then I think it was just a couple of weeks after that closed, Roger calls me back and he goes, "My sister-in-law just passed away and she has this condo and she lived in." So the moral of the story is doing it the old way, just cold calling and never asking for referrals. I got -2 with him, and using those words on my very first referral call, I ended up getting 2 closings. So those are the magic words. But
Right. Very good.
Thank
what
you.
else? What other? Thank you. Do you have another question, Kristen?
No, that's it for now. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Bob, I have a few questions.
All right. Let's do it.
Uh, I've been in the business 25 years. I'm not fan
That's
of
a pretty
the,
good start.
yes, not fan of the cold calling or door knocking.
Mhm.
And obviously, I fear the rejection that you get on the phone.
Well, I
Or,
don't have a fear of rejection because I sold no soliciting signs door to door.
or really,
No, that's a joke.
how many? If
Where
you
are you
make
from, Sam? Where are you from, Sam?
Chicago, you mean
Oh, the country.
Iran?
Iran?
Yes,
Okay, he's Persian. Very good. Do you speak
yes,
Farsi? Obviously.
yes, obviously.
All right.
Yes, and I mean, from 100 cold calling you make, how many business you get or how many rejection?
Well, 100% of the business I got was from the phone. So, and 100% of the rejection I got was from the phone.
Okay,
So it is, you will know the percentages after you've done it, and it will be different this week than next, and it will be different this year than next year, and this decade than the next decade. I don't think any of that really matters. It is, uh, I'll tell you what happened to me. I was in that training program that it was called Sweat Hogs. So in week 1, they called it the days of pain. And I paid Floyd a bunch of money. If I got 3 strikes, I'd get kicked out of the program and I wouldn't get my money back. So in week 1, what they made us do was cold call from 9 a.m. until 9 p.m., eating dinner and lunch, and meaning no FISBOs, no expireds, no, calling for referrals or anything, just flat out up and down the street cold calling. And to avoid getting a strike, you had to schedule a listing appointment. You had to schedule 3 listing appointments for the week. And if you did not schedule 3, then you got a strike. And in a single day, if you did not schedule a listing appointment, if you did not call from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and get a listing appointment, it didn't count as a day of pain. It was just painful. So on my very first day, I called from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and I did not schedule a listing appointment. So it did not count as a day of pain, which I had to have 3 of. But I was a different person at the end of that day. I had heard everything you could ever imagine from everybody. It changed my life. and I had enough good responses and leads, let's say, of people who I would say somebody to follow up with is somebody who says, I am definitely moving in less than 2 years. So that's a good lead, I would say. So at the end of that day, I said, I know for a fact, let's do it this way. Let's say that Sam, you have to, or all of you, have to schedule 5 listing appointments in the next 7 days. You have 7 days and you have to schedule 5 listing appointments. And you have to take 1 day completely off. So you can either use the phone. So that's one option. Or you could use social media only. You could mail emails to people only. You could physical mail things to people only. Which is going to give you the highest likelihood of scheduling 5 in a week?
The phone.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No
Hands down.
one would pick any of those other things.
Hands down.
Okay. Well, if that's true this week, isn't it going to be true next week?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be true every week. Why ever do anything else? Yeah. So I'm only going to spend my time is the only resource you've got also.
Right.
So dramatically increasing the dollars per hour you make is my job. That's how I see my job. So I don't want you wasting your time doing crazy stuff. So another thing to think about is, let's say that $300,000 a year is how much you're going to make. Okay. And you can do that by only working with buyers or only working with sellers. Which would you pick? Now, everybody on the call is different. Some of you would say, I only want to, if I had to only work with one or the other, I'd only work with buyers. Yeah, I would do that. But I will also tell you that you'd make twice as much money if you only worked with sellers, and it would be 4 times the dollars per hour.
Right.
And in spite of that, there are people that I coach that would rather do buyers only, and they do, and that's fine.
With sellers, you do have more time available to go do other things and
It's
make.
never a crisis. It's the buyer thing is a crisis.
It is. They want you every single day when they're available, and that's
you have to be ready when
they're ready.
Yeah.
Yep. Otherwise, they get mad.
It eliminates fun things like vacations.
Yeah, it's
Mr.
too
Bob,
hard.
I'm working with the buyer and the seller both. But for the buyer, I believe Christine or one of the agent asked for the interest rate. I know 6% interest rate is nothing. I used to sell it when it was more than 16%.
Mm-hmm.
I have a solution for that. Every time my buyer tell me, oh, 6% is too much, I don't want to buy, I tell him or her, how about if I bring your interest rate 1% down to 5%? Would be interested to buy? And they say, yeah, how do you want to do it? I said, okay, it's very easy. I'm going to ask the seller to give you $10,000, $12,000 credit, closing credit, and I'm using that to buy down your rate to bring it down from 6% to 5%. And then you will be happy camper and you're going to get to the house you like.
Let me just make sure I understood you. This person is your seller also, correct?
No, the buyer.
I got you. Well, buyers are the gum that I'm trying to scrape off the bottom of my shoe, aren't they?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So you could do that. I mean, sometimes it's not worth it. You just get a different buyer. I only worked with sellers, and my best friend listed his house with me. And then he had to buy a house. Well, I didn't work with buyers. So my partner, she took him out and showed him houses. It was not his dream to buy a house from me. It was his dream to buy a house.
Right.
She was hot. She's more fun to hang out with than me anyway. Look at me. Come on. So, yeah. So I don't, I'm not for everybody, and not everybody is for me. It's kind of the way I look at it. I want the buyer, again, it's nice, sane, smart, and deadly serious about buying a house right now. And right now, the interest rates are 6%.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fact.
Right.
So I'm not sure, Sam, I understood your question. Are you trying to get him to list his house and then buy? Was that the...
Doesn't matter if it is a listing site. I advise my seller to give some credit to the buyer to use that credit to buy down their mortgage
Yeah,
rate.
no, I got that. Yes.
And for the buyer, the same thing.
That works when he's buying his least favorite house. That seller
Yes.
would do that.
Yes.
But when there are 5 offers on his favorite house, his favorite house is everybody's favorite house. And when you have 5
Yes.
offers competing, I don't think that's going to be the pitch that the
No.
seller is going to go.
No, it doesn't work. Last 2 weeks, I lost 2 houses to a cash buyer investor from other countries. So when they go over asking price and it's cash and closing 1 week, nobody can compete with that. And we have to just let it go.
Yeah.
But Mr.
That
Bob,
happens.
yes, the other objection I hear these days a lot, they compare everybody with the Redfin agents, and they either buyer or seller. They say, oh, they listed with 1% or 1.5%. Why should I give you more than 5% interest?
Yeah, no one has ever said that to a fearless agent.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, because you don't talk commission until they're sold on the price. You don't talk price until they're sold on listing with you and HomeSmart tonight.
Okay.
And Redfin is practically out of business. Is
Right.
Redfin a big deal? I've never seen a Redfin sign. I travel all over the country. I see HomeSmart signs. I see Century 21. I see Coldwell Banker. I've never seen a Redfin sign. So,
Redfin. Yeah, Redfin is
We do have Redfin in our neighborhoods, yes.
you do?
One just popped up by me, yeah.
Well,
I always say you get what you
but
pay
again,
for.
you also have Coldwell Banker in your neighborhood, but you're not bringing them up.
Right.
Yeah. So
No.
Redfin is a piece of crap. It doesn't matter, but
Yeah,
And I
that's
always
what
say
I mean.
that. You're gonna get what you pay for.
they'll be out of business sooner or later. But
Exactly. They do it like the assembly line. Just one agent show the property, the other agent negotiate, write the contract, the other agent go for inspection, and you never see the first agent is not like a
I don't.
person.
That's not the way to handle that objection.
Yes.
Right.
But here's the way. So you do the, first of all, on the phone. This is one thing I forgot to mention. So Sam, let's pretend you're a buyer. I mean, a seller, excuse me. If I have an amazing strategy, Sam, and I do, and no other agent has it, and I already know, Sam, that you know that they do not have it, and it would 1,000% guarantee you that the buyer would grossly overpay for your house. They'd actually be happy that they did. And you would end up netting, after all the expenses are paid, tens of thousands of extra dollars you could never get any other way or with any other agent Would you want to hear about it?
Of course.
Okay, so you're not allergic to money.
No.
Okay, so when we meet, that's what we're going to talk about, not some other thing. Fair enough?
Sure.
Well, I like to meet with people in the afternoons or the evenings. Sam, do you have a 9 to 5 job? So that's how you do it.
Mhm.
Okay.
So agents, what you were doing is an example of that. I'm going to use you as a bad example, Sam. Can I get away with that? Is that okay?
That's fine. No problem.
So what you were saying was the agent does this, the agent does that, and that's a process thing. Okay. I want you to write this down. Never sell the process. Only sell the product.
Okay.
An example is I was getting my car repaired. So I'm looking at the new uh, Jeep. I drive a Jeep Grand Cherokee,
Good.
which I bought new from the factory. So it was a slightly different process, but you go to the new car dealer and you get in the car. It's new car smell. It's sexy, right?
It's not good for your health anyway, but
I love it so much it wouldn't matter.
okay.
I don't want to be laying in bed, Sam, dying of nothing from like
Okay.
some health nut. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
So I want that new car smell to be the thing that kills me. It's really the smell of rubber is what it is.
Yes.
If you want new car smell, go buy a brand new garden hose and throw it in the back of your car and you'll have new car smell. So the car, it's all the gizmos, it's all the thing, it's all sexy, it's all wonderful. The test drive is beautiful. Then that's the product, isn't it? What's the process of buying a car like? It is a living hell, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. And what's the only industry that has a worse process than that industry? Oh, it's realtors. That's right.
Yes, the
We
second
come
one.
over, we beat you down on your price. We put pictures all over the internet of how you live like a pig. We have people coming over to see your house all hours of the day and night. It's a nightmare. So don't always sell the product. So the fearless agent value proposition, and you have to be able to deliver on that.
Yes.
So that's the secret to
Beautiful.
prospecting.
My last question, I don't want to take too much of your time.
We're way past that, Sam.
I know. Are you still with the Century 21?
Pardon me?
Are you still with the Century 21?
Oh, no, I'm not an agent. I only coach agents how to get rich full time.
Oh, really? Okay, as a coach. Okay.
I
And
have a
speaking of
license
that,
hanging
Uh,
somewhere.
yeah,
speaking of that,
I was planning to invite you to Home Smart. The best
Oh, he's
company.
recruiting me. Oh, I love that.
Yes.
I was just going to say, speaking of that, can you tell us all how we can get in touch with you?
Sneaky
If we
Sam.
decide we want to use your coaching.
Yeah, what I would do is go to fearlessagent.com. There's a little webinar there. Watch that. You can call me anytime at 480-385-8810.
Say that again, 48, I'm typing it
This is
in.
toll free day or night for you, Deb.
480, thank you.
385-8810.
385. Say it again.
480-385-8810. And that is my cell phone, which I'm very good about answering.
Okay.
And you can always, anybody who doesn't coach with me can always call me and ask me a question. I won't answer, but no, I'll answer.
Can I still ask a question, or is our time up?
We're
Okay.
almost there. We've got
Okay.
30
Oh, you're the
minutes
last
left.
one.
Okay, good. I'm looking at the schedule you gave us, and I love that if you could stick to it. But as an individual agent working all by yourself, you have, like you mentioned, car repairs. You have all your paperwork. You've got your CE to do. You've got self-improvement just because, like whether it's coaching or updates to the industry all of those kind of things have to somehow fit in here, and there's nowhere left on your schedule.
Well, you get to take a day off.
Oh, I do. So I don't.
Here's the way I look at it. Like I had an eye exam yesterday. So if I have to go to Vision Works for my 2:30 p.m. eye exam, I should do that on Saturday if I can.
Yes.
Like
Okay.
the doctor or the dentist probably is not going to see you on Saturday, so that just would count as a day off.
Okay. Okay.
I don't
And
have
then,
to take the whole day off, but I would try
right.
to. Yeah, I mean, you have to do those things, of course.
Okay. And then the other thing, I would like to just give everybody on the call a little plug, because I called Bob years and years ago, and he did
What?
answer and he did help me. I can't afford coaching, but very helpful. So kudos
I think you
to you.
can't afford not to do it, Carol. Come on.
I've heard that before too. Great sales pitch.
That's that's great. Well, I'm glad you called me. Thank you. Call me again.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
I will say this about Carol's point there. Jesus was only born on one day, but we over celebrate his birthday, even by his standards. And then your birthday, Carol, that's a 2-week extravaganza. And then I got to get you out
A
of
month.
rehab or jail
A
or
month.
something like that.
I get the whole month.
Right. So
Okay.
I think realistically, in a realtor year, there's 40 weeks. There's 8 weeks of non-working weekdays in a realtor year. So all that, the doctor appointments and all that, actual vacations and stuff, your extravaganza for your birthday, that fits into that. It's funny that there are agents that I talk to, they're too busy traveling and vacationing to work. And then there's agents that I coach that are too busy working to go on vacation. Neither's good. You got to have a little balance, but having every day look the same, that is important. So thank you, Carol. Deborah, you want to talk about anything else?
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
I think you did a
Already
great
sick of
job,
me.
and
I'm
I'm
sick of
very
me.
thankful for you.
Thank you very much. Now, remember, you folks out there in TV land, do not go looking for trouble. Stay at home smart. You're where you need to be. And if you ever had a crazy idea like changing company, you call me. I will talk you out of it, and I'll be right every time.
I do wish you could give us more sources for where we could get those cold calls from.
Yeah.
You mean where to get the phone numbers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, go to mojosells.com. I think
mojosells.com.
It's possible that every single person I coach that works with sellers uses that. It's possible. They're kind of the only game in town, but it's
and they're nationwide?
No, but almost.
Okay.
There are some, but they provide you with a what do they call it? The database, the CRM. What do they call? The
Client relations manager.
right. And then so you would use that as your CRM, and then they have the data for almost every town in America. The addresses of the homeowners, and then they also have it's a 3-line dialer if you want it to be. It's 1-line, 2-line, or 3-line dialer. I would recommend starting with 1 line, not getting too crazy, and then they can sell you in some markets expired and canceled leads, FSBO leads, and they have some other things that they sell that I don't recommend. Don't go buy something weird like pre-foreclosure or for rent by owner. none of that stuff ever works out.
And we don't have to worry about the do not call list with them?
You can pre-scrub it for that.
Okay. Gotcha. All righty. Has anybody else got any other questions? We got just a few more
I actually have
seconds.
one question.
There she is. And
Um,
the picture is there. She's not embarrassed to show.
Hi. I have a question. Do you have any, or when you were making a calls, did you have anything specific that you did before you jumped on the call? Something that made you want to make the calls?
Yeah. You have to do 700 push-ups. So you can be a bodybuilder like me. No. I was before.
I mean, it's not fun to make the calls.
You know what? That psych yourself up stuff, that's baloney. The trainers who tell you to do that kind of stuff, that's a scam. You know, airline pilots don't do that before they fly the plane. I always say that if we trained airline pilots the way we train realtors, we'd all be dead by now. Airline pilots have the skill, you know, and they also have the schedule. They have to show up on time. You want to just, when you know what you're going to say, like there's no thing that a seller, a buyer, or an investor could say to me that I wouldn't have the right answer for. I'd automatically have it. I don't even have to think, you know. So it takes practice to get to that point, obviously, but that I'm going to do affirmations, you know, people that don't know how to teach you the skill. Tony Robbins would be a perfect example of that. When somebody has no skills to teach you, they teach you all that baloney of affirmations and, you know, you can do it. And I mean, come on, that's crazy. My plumber that just fixed my water heater, he doesn't do that because he knows what he's doing, you know. So
you just want to make a calls? You just naturally want to make a calls?
Well, it's like you get addicted to it after a while. It's like,
I think it's practice. I think it's just practice.
Yeah, I mean, like I told you the story about my first day of calling. I'd never cold called before, and I started at 9 a.m., picked up the phone, started calling. But by the end of that day, I was a completely different person. I had heard everything. Nothing was going to stump me. And you know, I've done stand-up comedy, so I'm not easily rattled, let's say.
Yeah.
If you heckle me, I'll say, hey, there's a bus leaving in 5 minutes, be under it, you know, whatever. So I'm ready for it, whatever. But at the same time, I cold calling for the first day, and I literally felt like I didn't know what I was doing. You know, if you drink a few beers before you call, you'll be less nervous. Forget the affirmations and drink a few beers. Now I am in AA, so you can overdo it. You know, I'm just saying.
Yeah, but I find that having an accountability partner, we get on the phone together every day. And it gets to the point where they hang up on you and they're like, I never want you to call again. You're like, okay, whatever. You know, they don't know you. Like they're not rejecting you. They don't care. You don't care. But I was going to ask you a question about what you said about, which I'm assuming you're talking about downsizers when you're looking at the 50% equity in your neighborhood.
Well, old people, that tends to be their story.
Okay, so
Old, you don't
you
have
have
to
a script for
old
that for the downsizer script, or if somebody who has all that equity.
I don't care what they're. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is when they say yes.
Yeah.
Then is when you don't want to do the rapport building baloney. You can just write this down. Where are you moving to? So
Wait, you'd open with that?
You say, pardon me?
You would open with that?
Well, after they've said yes, I am thinking of selling my house.
Oh, okay. So no rapport building. You don't recommend the rapport building.
Rapport building is death in sales. Scientifically, that's proven. It hurts you. It hurts your. You have a limited amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to get down to business. So where are you moving to? I'm not saying that rapport is a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
But think of the number of times, I think of the number of times that I would list a total stranger's house and they did business with me instead of their best friend who's a realtor from church. Now, who had more rapport? The friend, obviously. So rapport
Right.
is death. Yeah, that hurt the friend. That didn't help the friend. So where are you moving to? When you move there, are you going to buy or are you going to rent? So write that down. Rent
Okay.
or
Well, this is being recorded. So I was going to ask you if you could do, because I know Kristen and probably Gabby and myself would like to hear a dialogue between like I'm the potential seller
well,
or
I'm doing it now.
okay,
But you
okay.
say I'm gonna buy.
Okay, so you the first question you asked is what are you
Where
thinking
are
about
you
moving?
moving to?
No, the very first opening question.
We
Are
did
you
that already. As I was just calling to see if you might be thinking of selling your house. You
okay?
said
That
yes.
one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So once they say yes, now you got to be ready. So where are you moving to? Is the very next question. If I care about you, that's the question I'm going to ask. Okay. If I care about me, I'm going to do that rapport building Tony Robbins baloney. I care
Mm,
about you and your situation and making sure the buyer overpays for your house. Right. That's what I care about. So where are you moving to? Uh, by the way, if I cared about me, I would ask when. First question would be when, because it's all about me getting paid. When can I get paid? When can you pay me? Right.
mhm.
So it's where, because I care about you. So are you going to rent or are you going to buy? Is it going to be a condo or a house? Is it going to be bigger or smaller than the one you're in? Is it going to be more expensive or less expensive than the one you're in? So, what I'm trying to do is find the money problem and have them say it out loud so they hear themselves say the money problem that they have. Okay.
Mhm.
So, if they say, yeah, we're gonna rent, I'd say, are you going to rent for the rest of your life and never own another home? Yes. Well, I know they have a money problem. If you didn't have a money problem, you wouldn't do that. If they say we're going to buy a condo, nobody downsizes unless they have a money problem
Right.
because the
Oh,
White
not
is
not
pretty
necessarily.
big. You think Donald Trump's looking to downsize? I don't think so. Right?
Or if they're just getting older and they don't want to upkeep.
Right.
Upkeep costs
Or they're
money.
going to
It's
move
the money
closer to
problem.
family. They might want to move closer to family.
Well,
Right.
then I'd say if you're thinking of moving closer to your family, you should probably shoot yourself now. No,
Mm.
I'm kidding. But yeah, sometimes that's true. But you don't need to downsize to move closer to family. You could buy a bigger house. So again, I don't care what their answer is. I just want to know. But if
Mhm.
in the off chance that they have a money problem, they all care about money when they sell their house. If you don't think they care about money, why are they trying to grind you down on your commission? Of course they
Right.
care about money. So I want to get to the value proposition, which is the product, not the process, and then say, so if I have an amazing strategy, and I do, and that, would you want to hear about it? Yes. Then I go to when. Only then, after the sold on me and meeting with me and the money, then I go to when. And the when question has to be asked exactly this way. So write this down if you're watching it taped or whatever. So when is the soonest, realistically, you could imagine moving day ever actually being? So when do you think you're going to move? No. When is the soonest, realistically, you could imagine moving day ever actually being? Well, we're thinking about moving in the summer. Okay. Well, the summer has 3 months. In Arizona, it's 8. Which of those months do you think would be the soonest you could ever imagine moving day ever actually being? So I'm not moving on until I get that question answered. Now I'm going to make a decision on should I be meeting with them now. Now they might say, oh, it's not going to be for 4 months. So if you knew for certain that by waiting only 4 months, that you would end up losing tens of thousands of dollars for no great reason. Would you have to wait? Well, Bob, how would I lose tens of thousands of dollars by only waiting 4 months? Well, it wouldn't matter if you have to wait. Do you have to wait? So I'm going to get my question answered. They go, no, I wouldn't have to wait. Okay, so to avoid losing tens of thousands of dollars for no great reason, when is the soonest realistically you could imagine moving day ever actually being? So by asking all these questions that way, they know I care more about them than their friend who is going to give them a discount. They know I care more about them than any other stranger agent. And that's how the rapport gets built, actually. That's how they fall in love with you. So
I don't mean to cut you off, but
yeah,
we're
go ahead. No, cut me
starting to
off.
lose our connection.
Okay.
So I think we need to wrap it up.
Well, I had fun.
I had a great time,
All
Bob.
right.
Thank
Thank
you
you, Deborah.
so
And
much.
thanks to all
I
of you.
appreciate
All of
everything
my,
you did for me.
one more plug. Home Smart.
Home
Ooh,
Smart. Stay
yeah,
with Home
beautiful.
Smart. Right.
All right.
And one final question. Are you offering any kind of discounts with Home Smart at all nationwide?
I don't do discounts.
Okay.
So go to fearlessagent.com, watch the webinar, call me anytime, 480-385-8810. And
The
until we
phone's in the
talk,
chat.
have fun no matter what.
Awesome. Thank you again, Bob.
Thanks,
Appreciate
guys.
it.
Bye-bye.
Yay.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.